What's on the ground and also hundreds of feet in the air? A 9-foot-long prehistoric millipede on its back. Yikes. Hey everyone, welcome back to the STEMulus. I'm Steph, and today we're doing another episode of Weird Science. Recently, I had a friend ask me if I knew anything about why bugs have shrunk down significantly since prehistoric times. My first response was, of course not, I just thank whatever powers that were at play to make that happen for making it happen because, oh my god, or can you imagine how terrifying that would be? I have a strong fear when it comes to creepy crawlies. Don't judge me. Anyway, with Ant-Man and the Wasp recently killing it at the box office featuring their massive ant, I thought it was the perfect time to delve into the question, why don't we have massive bugs anymore? Now, you may be asking, how big were they? Well, if we hopped in a TARDIS with the 13th Doctor, who I am so excited about, and traveled back 300 million years to what's known as the late Carboniferous and early Permian periods, we'd step out to find massive dragonfly-like insects known as griffinflies, with wingspans of up to 28 inches across and measuring 17 inches from head to tail. Or we might trip over an Arthropleura, a 9-foot-long millipede that hung out in North America and Europe. If you go even further back to 390 million years ago in the Devonian period and go for a swim, you might bump into an 8-foot sea scorpion. To put that into perspective, if we had Shaq stand next to a fully upright sea scorpion, he'd still be almost a foot shorter than this thing. The claw alone is around 18 inches in length. Just let him have the ball, Shaq. It's not worth it. You can't make the free throws anyway. So how did these creepy critters get so big and what happened to them? There are lots of theories out there, and it kind of depends on which species we're talking about. A theory for a long time was that since the atmosphere contained almost 10% more oxygen than it does today, this allowed bugs to get enough oxygen through their small breathing tubes that they used instead of lungs. When the oxygen in the atmosphere decreased, so did the size of the insects. However, thanks to a study published in 2012, we know this may not be the case. The scientists noted that this trend tracked for about 200 million years, but when they hit the end of the Jurassic period and the beginning of the Cretaceous period, about 150 million years ago, things changed. Suddenly, the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere increased again, but the size of the insects continued to decrease. So what would cause the insects to continue shrinking? They noted that while the insects were still shrinking, birds were starting to emerge as their top predators. With birds flying around eating these insects, it became necessary for flying insects like the griffinflies to make some evolutionary changes. If you know anything about aircraft, you know that the larger ones aren't as maneuverable as the smaller planes. Maneuverability was super important for flying insects in order to dodge their new predators, so the ones with the smaller bodies became the evolutionary favorite and the larger bodied insects became lunch. For our friend the sea scorpion, oxygen may not have been the only factor or even a factor at all, since they were around before the higher levels of oxygen existed in the atmosphere. Instead, they may have tumbled down the food chain when vertebrates rolled onto the scene. Smaller size would have allowed them to hide better from their vertebrate predators, especially once they started venturing onto land. In the case of Arthropleura, the changing climate is believed to be what led to its demise. When the Permian period rolled around, the giant millipede's habitat became drier. The coal swamps disappeared, and as a result, it lost its food source. As time goes on, scientists may discover even more clues about what happened to these giant bugs and scorpions, and their theories may be given more credence or new theories may emerge. As we've discussed in this story, even in just the last 10 years, the general theories have shifted as scientists have discovered more fossils and evidence that have helped paint a more clear picture about what Earth was like hundreds of millions of years ago. Either way, I personally am just super glad these things don't exist anymore. So that brings us to our question of the day. How would you feel if giant bugs were still hanging around? Would you befriend our new insect overlords, or would you be heading for the hills like me? Let me know in the comments section down below. As always, if you want to check out this topic a little bit more in depth, I will include links to my sources down below, along with links to all of my social media and my Patreon page, so feel free to check that out in your free time. If you like this video and you want to see more STEM-related content just like it, please give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on any of my future STEM-related content. If you've got any weird sciencey tidbits that you want more of an explanation on, please feel free to leave them in the comment section of this video, on the STEMulus Facebook page, or send them to me on Twitter at the STEMulus using the hashtag WeirdScience, and they just might make it into a video. But with that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay well, stay awesome, and I will see you next time.